Today we're talking bus repairs. If you've been following my channel, you know I've been having some issues. Well, the electrical is fixed. All my lights are working. I came across this RV repair electrician. He does all kinds of stuff in RVs. He specializes in RVs. So he was happy to come out and take a look at my bus. It's a father-son team, Dennis and David. And they did a great job. They were very helpful in many aspects. But they tracked down the problem. I had a broken wire. Stop. Stop. Echo, lay down. Thank you. Good girl. No. She's always so overjoyed when I say the G-O-O-D. Okay, now lay down. Just lay down. Thank you. Stop. Stop. Echo, stop. I have to get firm. Okay, now we can continue on. I almost forget where I left off. So, the electrical. They found out that I did have a broken wire, but there's like this one part that like distributes the power or something to all the different lights. And that went out. And when it went out, it also caused a flasher unit to go out. So there were two parts. And all my lights are working. So they were helpful. He checked out my tires. Now, of course, you know, he didn't take everything apart or anything, but he thought my tires were in good shape. Excellent tread and no rot. So I'm still thinking I'd like to get new tires on the front. And I think I'll go into Les Schwab, tell them I want my brakes checked, and see if they even say anything about the tires needing replaced. But I'm leaning towards replacing at least my drive tires. And it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about the brakes, because they'll be looking all the way deep. And because the mechanic that... Well, anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So, next, so my lights are fixed, so now I get back to the search for a mechanic. And I found a mechanic shop, Bucky's. A beaver with big buck teeth is their mascot. They service gas vehicles, but Steven, their head mechanic, the boss, I don't even know, he might even be the owner, I don't know, but he was obviously the guy in charge. He was working on the bus. He took me in because he does know diesel engines and he can work on diesel engines, but he doesn't have the tools to dig deep into diesel engines. But he has the lift to check everything out. So I went to Bucky's for a vehicle inspection. Now, what I discovered when I went driving for this vehicle inspection is that for some reason my bus had no guts. I couldn't even make it up our steep driveway here. I had to back down around the driveway and avoid the steep part. So I was a little concerned about that, but we kept going. And then it was like, okay, when I came to a stoplight or a stop sign, taking off was a real slow, sluggish event. And if I had a steep hill on the road, which I did on my way to the mechanic, I was plugging. You'd think I was going up a mountain pass. And I was flooring it to do it. I really had no guts. About halfway there, I debated whether I should turn around and go home. I was afraid I was going to stop running. It wasn't sputtering or anything. I just had no power. But I debated with myself and decided, no, it's better to be closer to the mechanic than closer to home if I do break down. So I white-knuckled it all the way there. Did a little bit of pitting out. I was so nervous. But we made it. Now, originally, I was just going for an inspection, but now I had an issue too. So I explained to Stephen what was up, where I was hardly going. Well, he did the inspection, and all I needed was the oil change and filter, which I knew, and I needed a new air filter, but everything else checked out, other than he said my back brakes were at about 25% and my front brakes were at about 15%. So he recommended getting my brakes done. He did say that he gave me an estimate of $15.99 for the front brakes and the same for the back brakes. So we're talking, over $3,000 to get my brakes fixed. But he said, this is the highest estimate. He goes, this is if you need everything. He said, but once he gets into it and tears everything apart, he said, I might find that I don't need everything and it will be a lesser price. He just wanted to give me the worst case scenario, and then we could be happily surprised if that wasn't the case. He also told me that I could get by with doing just the front brakes for now, and I wouldn't be in any danger, and then to do the back brakes later when I had more money for doing brakes. Other than the brakes, basically I had a good bill of health. Now, because I told him about the sluggish issue, after he was all done with everything, he plugged in one of those sensor things and drove the bus around and came back. And first he said that the bus didn't seem as sluggish as I had said. He said it doesn't seem to be as bad as you think it is, at least in his opinion. I did come up with some codes, some, code failure things. And he thought that was odd because he said it was a scattered thing of codes, and he was surprised that the check engine light wasn't on. And he recommended I go to a diesel mechanic and get the codes read and find out what those codes are. Again, he could plug in and get the codes, but I don't think he had the diesel book or whatever it is that explains the codes, and he just wanted me to go to a diesel mechanic and check out those codes. Well, the drive home was actually fun because my sluggish problem seemed to not be there. The drive home was much easier. She had the guts. There was no problem stopping and then going and taking off with the... And before, when it was sluggish, what I did notice that once I hit like 35, 40 miles an hour, it seemed normal again. Well, now it was feeling pretty normal at the lower speeds in the stop-and-go traffic, and I wasn't having issues. So it was a fun ride. I was feeling, oh my God, we're doing great. And it is fun to drive the bus, I have to say. So I brought it home, and I just parked on the flat driveway. And I told Justin, I go, we can park the bus in the morning, because to this point, I've always had Justin back the bus into the parking spot. It's sort of a complicated issue. You've got big boulders on either side. You've got to turn into it, and there's trees and boulders that are really close that you have to really wiggle your way in. And Justin's done it, and he's got the backup camera and 2 spotters at the back helping direct. But then when I woke up in the morning, I decided it was time to put my big girl panties on and park the bus myself. Well, to do that, I had to pull part way up the steep part of the driveway to get backing in at the right angle. And lo and behold, I just lightly had my foot on the gas and it just zipped right up. So instead of just going part way up, I went all the way up, and I'm like, woohoo, I've got my guts back. I couldn't even make it up that part the day before. So I brought it around again, only I stopped it just before the steep part so that I could see how it handled from a stop. Because before I was just, I was already in motion when I went up. And sure enough, easy peasy, she just cruised right on up. No issues. So I brought her around. First time I went up and started backing down to do the parking, I realized I wasn't at the right angle. So I pulled it back up, got the right angle, and if I didn't just weed my way, boom, 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 easy peasy, right into my parking spot. I was so proud of myself. It's like the girl who could back a horse trailer into any spot is back. So it was a very uplifting day, but I'm thinking it's probably better to be safe than sorry and to still go ahead and see if I can't find a diesel mechanic to check the codes themselves and tell me exactly what they're for. But the bus basically got a clean bill of health at Buc-ee's, and now she's running really good like her old self. I wouldn't say she purrs like a kitten, but I'd say she purrs like a tiger, and that's a diesel for you anyway. So I'm very pleased with the progress on the bus, and I also feel very comfortable driving her wherever I have to do to get whatever I have to get done. So that's all the good news on the bus. Now, what I discovered in Google Maps is they now have a thing, a fuel efficient route. They've got your fastest route, you can do no highways. Well, now they have a fuel efficient route. And I checked out that route from our home base here to Betty's, and it takes me a completely different way that I would have never even imagined. And I'm sort of excited because I'm going to take this route. And I'm going to be driving where I've never driven before. I've done the I-5 corridor up and down between California and Washington many times. Well, this route doesn't even hit I-5. Takes you down southeast, and it cuts through a northeastern corner of Oregon, and then cuts through a southwestern corner of Idaho, and then heads down the eastern border of Nevada all the way to Arizona. So, a completely different route. I completely don't go on I-5, and no California. Now, I was looking forward to visiting my friends in California and being in California, but there's plenty of time to do that after I've been down with Betty. So I'm not going to see go down the coastline and stuff. I think it's wiser to use the fuel efficient route. And, it isn't really slower than, it takes about the same amount of time as if I was just planning a route to go down through California and stuff. So, it isn't that much slower than the fastest route they give. So I'm definitely, at least I finally settled on a route. Now I can take my different camping apps and marry them with that route and see where I'll be stopping along that way. So getting closer. Now another development came up. The VA informed Betty that her surgery won't be happening before November 15th. And then there's not really a date. It's just sometime November 15th to the end of November that she will be getting her surgery. Not good news for Betty because she is in terrible pain waiting for this surgery. But good news for me because it gives me more time up here to get everything done that needs to get done. You know, if I find a mechanic that says he can't get me in for 2 weeks, that's okay, because I'll still be here in 2 weeks. And it also gives me time to stay at Walmart longer, so I can get a few more paychecks under my belt. I'll be getting a Social Security check and 2.5 paychecks. So I'm feeling a little less stress. I'm feeling like financially this is going to be doable. So I'm getting pretty excited about the trip. I think I'm going to make it in time for surgery now that it's been postponed. Poor Betty. So that's the gig. I'm getting there. A lot of stress and anxiety has sort of peeled off in layers with these new developments. So I'm more excited than anxious now for this trip. That's it for today. Stay safe. I hope your stress levels are at a dull roar. I mean, we all have stress at some level, right? I hope yours are in the low level right now. So we'll see you next week.